Although Justin Fields has done the impossible and made the Chicago Bears cool, he still can't make them favorites in Atlanta. Kyle, the Falcons are getting roughly 3 points at home, but Fields is the man we want to talk about. Running insanely hot, both on the ground and through the air. We know regression is coming, but has his baseline become so high that it doesn't even matter if he regresses?
Yeah, I think I like the way you put it there, that even if, right now in the past 4 games, I believe, actually past 5 games since week 6, he has doubled his rushing expected fantasy points versus his real points. Like, he is scoring at twice the rate simple expected fantasy points would tell you he is scoring. Now, do I think he is a player who performs at exactly expectation? No, he's a quarterback. Quarterbacks are more efficient running than running backs, and he is an incredibly talented quarterback on the ground, and he's improving through the air too. So I think he should be over his expectation. Should he be double his expectation? That is a lofty goal to set going forward. But if you just put him exactly at his expectation, rushing and passing expected points combined since week 6, he'd be the QB3. So absolutely, if he falls back to earth, but on the same volume, he'll be a top 5 fantasy quarterback.
Like, it's all kind of playing off each other. I mean, one reason his touchdown rate through the air has suddenly spiked is because defenses are just terrified of his legs. And I almost think like his aerial touchdown rate might remain stickier than his ground touchdown rate, because the ground is not going to keep scoring 65-yard touchdowns every week, I don't think, but he might. But now defenses have to give so much respect to his legs that maybe he really can become a 2 to 3 week touchdown passer. Anyone else have anything to add on Justin Fields, or is the case closed?
The Falcons defense is atrocious in every way. They can be had on the ground and through the air. So I once again fear fading Justin Fields in DFS. I will say it on air. I know Kyle may disown me after this, but
fear is correct. You definitely, whether or not you choose to play him, you should feel terror in your heart if he's not in your lineup. He is so.
You like being poor if you don't play him. Let's just say it. Just say it.
That is at least within the realm of possibility that poverty remains in my future. And they've been loading him up with design carries too. 65% of his design carries have come in the past 4 games, which only account for 40% of his games. They have completely revolutionized this offense, where it started off looking scarily similar to what it did last year, where they did not know what to do with him. And they've just completely sort of switched things up. So I at least expect the volume and general production to continue, albeit I agree. 60-yard touchdowns in back-to-back games is that's what we're fading in DFS, is a 60-yard touchdown.
I want to emphasize the passing stuff, though, because I do think that's a really critical part of this. From weeks 1 through 6, he was 29th in EPA per play. He was really inaccurate, 35th in completion percentage over expected. Only Baker Mayfield was more inaccurate through the first 6 weeks than Fields. Over the last 4 weeks, though, he's been a lot more efficient and a lot more accurate. He's 7th in EPA per play, 12th in CPOE. He was basically like a less accurate version of Mitch Trubisky to start the season. Recently, more like a more accurate version of Lamar Jackson. So, in a great matchup, I might be so fearful I just play him. Right. In DFS. Maybe why am I fading him? But it's hard to fully fade him, I think.
So part of my process is trying to come up with ways that a guy can fail, right? Like a very popular play that can fail. I'm having a lot of trouble using my imagination to find a way Justin Fields can fail against Atlanta.
Yeah,
I think it would be that they both just go super run heavy and they kind of reinforce, and the game slows down and there's just not that much scoring.
Yeah, if we could just get him back to 99 yards and 1 touchdown and not add a 60-yard run on top of that, he probably puts up 25 points and it's still like a slam dunk. You started him in season long and you're happy with it. Right. We're talking about sort of the next level of like, how can he not bury us in DFS? Because he's been doing that.
Yeah.
Crane, you talk about this, how he's been more accurate. I mean, we know that he didn't just overnight get more accurate, but part of it is how bad the passing supporting cast is, and your advanced metrics are just going to be bad a lot of times. If the players you're throwing to are bad, they look better now. He looks better now because, again, if they're terrified of your legs, you're going to have way more lanes to operate in the passing game. And while Fields himself has gone nuclear, like no one in his supporting cast has really gone nuclear. I mean, Cole Kmet is scoring a lot of touchdowns, but have you noticed any interesting trends amongst Justin Fields' pass catchers, just beyond Cole Kmet actually scoring real live NFL touchdowns?
Yeah, I actually think that, and this very much applies to DFS stuff, is that it's sort of hard to figure out like what to do. Are you stacking Fields? Because I think the trend is that it's still pretty difficult to predict who's actually going to to be scoring alongside Fields. I completely agree with Kmet. I mean, that it's all been touchdown driven. He does have 82% route participation this season, which is good. But he is not drawing targets at a particularly high rate. He has a first read target on just 8% of his routes. So that's not good. The offense isn't really designed to go through him. Some of the stuff that he's been doing has been, on these big plays or just kind of being used in the red zone. So it feels like it could dry up for Kmet pretty quickly. Chase Claypool is being involved on a very small subset of routes, but it seems like they have a package for him when he comes in. So he gets targeted at a really high rate per route, but completely unplayable. Ran a route on just 27% of dropbacks against the Lions. So he's just kind of more of a, he's a thorn in the side of everybody else. Mooney has an elite 94% route rate this season. I think he's certainly like worthy of a flex gamble type, but like, I worry about his targets as well because he hasn't been drawing targets all year. So there isn't I guess the note is that Fields is kind of someone that you would rather just play on his own, I think.
I do wonder if the Kmet touchdowns might end up slightly stickier than we expect because to me, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that he has 5 touchdowns in 3 games, but it makes sense where if this is suddenly like a viable passing attack, or at least one the defense is like, oh man, like we got to actually respect the Bears passing game. It does make sense that he's going to be the target in the red zone. I mean, he's 6'6". Part of the problem before is that they weren't in the red zone very much. They were just functional when they were in the red zone. Maybe it's more functional offense. He's going to actually get more consistent red zone targets than we're expecting. I mean, one of the touchdowns was 50 yards. One was like 18. One was 10. There was a few inside the 5. But yeah, I think you laid it out really, really well, Crane. We still need more patterns to develop, basically.
As a Cole Kmet hater, for some reason I'm just constantly skeptical of him. And I know, 5 touchdowns on his past 14 targets. It kind of that's the reason why, obviously.
That's sticky.
I take no pleasure in saying that the Falcons are really generous to tight ends. They've given up the third most receptions to tight ends. If his routes are decent against Atlanta, there's no reason to think they won't be. I think he might get there again, folks.
Now, do you think that the Falcons are allowing points to tight ends as part of Arthur Smith's ongoing troll to Kyle Pitts fantasy managers?
It is in the range of outcomes, many are saying.
It really, really is. I mean, that guy's a FedEx heir. Like he doesn't need this money from coaching his team, so he can afford to just do like real elaborate stuff. Like he gets fired, he goes back to his mansion.
They're pretty good bits, I have to say. Like the bits are pretty good.
They're very, 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 very elaborate. Speaking of elaborate, Denny, the Falcons backfield. What's going on here? Cordell Patterson hasn't really been that impressive since he came off injured reserve 2 games ago. Did have a 2-touchdown game. Can this be the kind of scoring environment that gets Cordero going again? What's going on behind Cordero, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that Marcus Mariota won't throw a pass this week. The Falcons, are.
We did just establish he's a man of bits, Arthur Smith.
That's a good bit.
That would be a good bit.
Yeah. They're run heavy no matter what. Last week, even a negative game script. They had a negative 14% pass rate over expected against Carolina. They've been under their expected pass rate every single week this year. I think this game will look like something out of, 1975 against Chicago, which is the league's 4th most extreme run funnel defense. They allow the 10th highest EPA per rush. I'm very interested. I'm actually really interested. I'm struggling with Tyler Algier in a couple season-long leagues because I want to play him over options that would seem superior. But I think that if game script can stay stable here, I think he could see a ton of action. He led the backfield in pass routes last week in game 10, in week 10 against the Panthers. He saw 8 carries to 5 carries for both Patterson and Caleb Huntley. So I think he's the lead back, maybe. And even if he splits with Cordell Patterson, if they run the ball as much as I think they will against the Bears, I think both guys could get there.
Another precious bit from Arthur Smith has been having a former receiver, elite playmaking player like Cordell Patterson, and just using him as a running back when your second receiver is in fact Olamide Zaccheaus, and I don't know who their third receiver is. So that's been a real treat from my man.
Demir Bird and Kadarius Hodge, isn't that the
Bird? Yeah,
I had to blurb.
I've started Kadarius Hodge in a 14-team dynasty league this year.
Do you need help?
He scored points. He helped me get a win, I think.
Crane, we just have to say it, you're down bad.
No, I won. This is good.
Real quick, we've already been talking about this game too long. Do we have anything on the Falcons pass catchers or maybe Mariota's sicko streamer season?
I'll note, and I almost feel bad doing this, but Kyle Pitts, I think there's
7
some
targets,
optimism.
3 straight games.
He's ran around on 89% of dropbacks in week 10, which was his second highest route participation of the season. 4th straight week, he's seen a first read target on 20+% of his routes as well. He's now 10th among all wide receivers in first read targets per route. Only Mark Andrews has a higher rate among tight ends. So the offense, 1, is putting him out there more, and 2, is looking like it's kind of designed to have him as the top option in the passing game. So, I mean, the Bears, they're not good against the pass or the run. I completely agree that this game's going to look crazy run heavy. I think on both sides, the Bears, even during this Fields breakout, have been super, super run heavy, and you can run on the Falcons as well as pass. But maybe there's some efficiency here this week with Pitts. I mean, he's getting a lot of opportunity per route, per drop back. It would be a pretty good bet if
sounds like a lot
there's
of
only one drop back and it's an overthrow to
Yeah,
I
Pat,
think
that
would be the
little
best
laugh.
chance to go.
That little laugh you had as you were trying to get through these, really, I could see the Joker coming out in you. And I will say, for like Pitts and London, although at this point I don't even care to talk about London, but for Pitts, when you talk about things like rate stats, his target share, his air yard share, it feels like they almost don't matter because of how little this team passes. But he legitimately just leads all tight ends in air yards. Now, Mark Andrews has been banged up and also got his bye, so that's why he was able
among tight ends in the league.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he was able to help Mark Andrews. But even if he was number 2, right? The actual attempt, even on a raw volume, like that's how you score fantasy points basis, the air yards have been there. They don't originate from the best source of air yards per se, that being Marcus Mariota. But I think there's something here with this Pitts fella.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.